There are moments in royal life that look almost like Shakespeare in modern costume, a palace drama not of swords and tapestries, but of wire transfers and whisper campaigns, secrets carried in ledgers instead of handwritten letters. This is precisely such a moment. As if overnight, the elegant, carefully powdered edifice of the British monarchy finds itself rattled by revelations that cut far deeper than scandalous love affairs. At the center of this storm stand three figures bound by blood, oath, and ghost. Prince William, the future king determined to steer the crown toward new moral clarity; Queen Camilla, a survivor of decades of public contempt now forced to confront private skeletons; and King Charles, caught in that ancient war between heart and throne, between the woman he spent a lifetime fighting for and the legacy he must protect. It all exploded from something that, at first, barely looked like news. A discreet digital file not leaked to reporters in smoky London pubs but posted by mistake on a half-forgotten family archive server. The voice on it was unmistakable. Andrew Parker Bowles, the dashing old cavalryman who once owned Camilla's heart and then her hand, confiding in the gravel of age what he had long locked away. It was meant for his children, or so he says. A memoir spoken into a microphone with the casual fatalism of a man who knows time is no longer his ally. But somehow it escaped the vaults, zipped through encrypted forums, and by dawn had landed on thousands of breakfast tables across Britain. The man once called the handsomest officer in England didn't just speak of betrayals of the flesh. He spoke of something far more dangerous: financial webs spun in secrecy, assets hidden in Swiss vaults, and trusts designed to cushion not merely aristocratic comfort but to secure Camilla's strategic rise from the restless margins of the country set to the jewel-crusted chair beside the sovereign. Prince William's reaction was reportedly not the shouting of outraged youth but the cold, extended silence of a man suddenly weighed with history. By sundown, courtiers were summoned to Kensington Palace, papers spread across polished desks under the watchful portraits of his mother. Advisors brought numbers, frightening numbers. Trusts feeding small fortunes each year into property renovations, educational stipends, charity advisory fees that quietly underwrote Camilla's extended family. Almost £5 million a year flowing under the public's radar. All perfectly legal, all perfectly discreet, and now, all perfectly radioactive. By the time morning broke, the decision was made. William ordered the complete severance of financial support for Queen Camilla's broader clan. The message was dispatched to Buckingham before the king had even finished his tea. When it landed, insiders say Charles read it with stony, unmoving eyes. Camilla reportedly fled the room in tears, and the old halls of the palace filled with that eerie hush that comes when courtiers are too polite to stare. Of course, Britain's tabloids went berserk. William cuts Camilla clan cash, royal family feud explodes, screamed the Mirror. Hashtags like #CrownControl and #Cashgate trended across continents. Satirical late-night hosts ran flowcharts with Swiss banks at the top and wry cartoon corgis at the bottom. Monarchists fumed, Republicans cheered, and the global press sniffed blood in the water. But if you listened carefully, you'd hear something quieter beneath the raucous surface, a sigh of weary relief. Because William, for all the political volatility he risked, had drawn a moral line. He would not inherit a system where opaque family wealth trickled quietly into private hands without scrutiny. Yet the human wreckage was immediate. Inside Camilla's circle, shock turned to indignation. Her sister Annabel, long reliant on these funds to maintain a Grade 2 listed estate that dripped more history than liquidity, began consultations with lawyers. Cousins who had counted on small bursaries for their children's tuition spoke of betrayal. Some even threatened to leak private letters if financial support dried up. The monarchy's legal teams went into overdrive, bracing for potential breach of promise suits that could drag dusty family agreements into open court. And what of King Charles? Friends say he now drifts alone through the quieter wings of Buckingham Palace, grappling with a torment no sovereign handbook ever prepared him for. Love had once demanded he endure scandal and stand by Camilla through decades of national sneers. Now duty demanded he watch silently as his son dismantled the old protective nets that cushioned her family. A bishop close to the royal household put it starkly: a father's heart is the hidden motor of the state. And it is breaking. Charles issued a short statement, cold as marble. His Majesty maintains full confidence in both the Queen and the Prince of Wales. But inside those clipped words lay an entire opera of anguish. Meanwhile, Camilla, forged by decades of being the villain in Diana's legend, responded through attorneys, insisting the trusts were perfectly above board, created by credentialed advisors, that Andrew's recollections were subjective, selective, and materially mistaken. Her circle muttered that she survived being the most hated woman in Britain once, she could weather this too. But palace sources hinted at private fragility. A woman who spent years clawing her way from mistress to duchess to queen was now forced to look back on every strategic maneuver, every discreet bank instrument, through the merciless lens of modern transparency. And in the center of it all stood William, the reluctant revolutionary. Those close to him insist this was never about humiliating Camilla, whom he has publicly treated with careful respect. It was about protecting the crown itself. A monarchy that fails to reform, he is said to believe, is a monarchy that will not survive Netflix documentaries and parliamentary probes. His closest aide put it simply, for William, it was conscience over comfort. He saw the alternative was rot. History, of course, echoes with uncomfortable parallels. The court whispers of another Wallis Simpson moment when love once forced Edward VIII to step down. Yet this is something altogether modern, a morality play with spreadsheets instead of exile, Google Drive leaks instead of whispered telegrams. And public opinion, that fickle queenmaker, sways day by day. A YouGov flash poll showed 65% supporting William's decision, 22% opposed, and the rest merely entertained by the spectacle. Republicans seized the turmoil with glee, pushing campaigns to remove the monarchy from currency and constitutional language in Australia and Canada. In Caribbean capitals, leaders renewed quiet moves toward republic status. And still deeper tremors threatened London's own gilded core. Parliament's Public Accounts Committee began to murmur about calling palace advisors for sworn testimony. If they did, it could shatter centuries of precedent, forcing the private ledgers of royal relatives into bright, cruel light. Through it all, Catherine, battling her own health war with an almost eerie grace, is said to be urging mediation. Sources close to her reveal private luncheons where she gently pressed for reconciliation, warning that the monarchy cannot function as rival courts. Camilla has attended, if warily, knowing that each headline that drags her trusts into fresh scrutiny risks unspooling even older secrets that might not stop with her. And what of Andrew Parker Bowles, that accidental detonator of this royal earthquake? Friends in Wiltshire describe a man by turns genial and haunted. A small stroke last year left him determined to record his truth, for his grandchildren if not for the world. Whether he regrets its global escape depends on the hour. At dawn, he mutters it should have stayed locked away. By dusk, over another glass of claret, he sighs, the family needed a reckoning. So now the monarchy stands on that thin, trembling bridge Andrew once said connected two worlds, the comfortable illusions of the past and the brutal demands of what must come. William's gamble might remake the relationship between crown and people, trading old opaque loyalties for a transparent compact fit for the digital age. Or it might unleash a tide of disclosures that no royal brand can survive. Observers sketch out 4 roads ahead. 1. Total financial transparency with independent audits that could cleanse the monarchy's image or embarrass it into oblivion. 2. Private deals among William, Charles, and Camilla to quietly restore partial support under strict new oversight, risking leaks painting it as a grubby backroom stitch-up. 3. Intervention by Parliament, dragging every ducal cousin's ledgers under committee lights. Or 4. The palace gamble of simply waiting out the news cycle, hoping the next scandal or royal baby bumps this from the front pages, even as the underlying rot remains. In the echoing halls of Windsor and Kensington, these choices are no longer academic. They cut to the bone. They challenge a family to prove that in the 21st century, it stands for honesty as fiercely as it once stood for bloodlines. And they reveal the excruciating cost of love, ambition, and loyalty tangled together at the highest stakes. 900 years of monarchy has endured murder, madness, abdication, even civil war. Today's peril arrives not on horseback but in encrypted leaks and parliamentary subpoenas. Yet the same old truth remains: crowns survive by adapting faster than their enemies can tear them down. Whether this is an ending or merely the jagged start of a new chapter depends on the next whispered council behind palace doors. Perhaps, late at night, when he walks alone through the private chapel at Buckingham, King Charles prays not for power or legacy, but simply that his wife and son might somehow find their way back to each other. Because for all the splendor of these golden halls, the monarchy, as ever, is just a fragile human story, written by people who must choose between shielding old scars and daring to heal them.